Snitches are bitches and bitches get stitches. Yeah, I'm saying it. But yeah, it's kind of weird how this has all came out because so to rewind, you've had people who have gone through and who have decided to snitch on their neighbours and their local businesses for not following laws when it comes to this whole beer bug, right? And at the end of the day, to be honest, I think it's kind of cowardly. If you're going to go through and if you're going to rat out your neighbours and you don't have the gonads to say it to their face, but instead you're going to go through and run behind their back just to snitch on them so they get in trouble, I really don't have much respect for you. If I have a problem with my neighbour, I'll go over and say something to him. Just saying. It's not... I'm not going to rat on him out or anything like that, right? But I get people that have autoimmune diseases that have, like they might have HIV or lupus or whatever it may be. They have some sort of immune disease and they don't want to catch this beer bug, right? My neighbour, she's elderly and I haven't gone near her just because of the fact that, well, she could possibly catch beer bug. Right, so I've stayed away from her to make sure she doesn't get it because as much as we might disagree on things, you don't want her catching a potentially life-threatening disease. So anyway, so beer bug has been around and people were called in. They were people in St Louisiana and stuff like that. They were asked to call in to report businesses that were still open so that the police can go through and investigate the situation and possibly hand out fines. And this is the thing too, right? Some of these businesses would have been fined, no doubt. Some of these businesses would have been given cease and desist orders or whatever it may have been to shut down. They are just trying to run their businesses. They are obviously desperate if they are defying these laws. If they're defying these laws and they are that desperate for money, handing them a fine isn't going to be something that's going to go down well, right? So you've got these people who wanted to be anonymous, who have rang into this tip line or emailed this tip line and have gone through and reported businesses for being open because they're concerned, quotes. Well, the problem is those 900 plus people that reported on their neighbour, reported on the businesses and whatnot, their information has been leaked due to sunshine laws. And those documents are now out in the wild. And everybody that has been ratting out on their neighbour, all 900 of them, mind you, and vastly overwhelmingly Democratic, we'll get to that in a sec, their names are out. People know who you are. People know that you snitched. Look, I don't think there's any real problem or real threat to them. I don't think anyone's going to go around and beat them because they snitched on them, right? Worst case scenario is going to be a few angry glares thrown at each other backwards and forwards, like, you snitched on me, you opened your shop during the laws. Yeah. Right, but I do find it very, very interesting that the vast majority of these people that reported to this tip line are Democratic. Now, whether that's because they, tend to believe the hype around this beer bug more than the Republicans, or is it B, that they're more watching programs like MSNBC, CNN, ABC, these sort of programs which have hyped up beer bug, so they believe the Kool-Aid that's been fed? I don't know. But I do find that it was something like 60 to 30. It was some ridiculous number of people that reported to this zip line were Democrats. But let's jump into it. So St. Louisiana has a spree of social media posters this week warns that St. Louisiana released the information it got from people who reported businesses in violation of the stay-at-home order. The documents released in response to the Sunshine Law request, including names and contact information of the people making the reports. The messages, some asked for anonymity. Posts and comments in response to the document invited retaliation against the people who utilised the county's inbox for tips and non-essential businesses that stayed open. I don't think so, but anyway. The I-Team PJ talked with a woman whose tip was among those released. Patricia asked that we not use her last name because she fears that someone might do something with the information in the document. We'll just call her Karen. Okay, they're all Karens here, aren't they? Let's face it, these people overwhelmingly are like, I'm going to guess, 30s to 40s, female and white. I imagine the vast majority of them are that or soy boys. People that don't have the gonads to go over, why the hell are you open during this? The vast majority of them are going to be people that don't have the gonads to do that, and that they're people that are going to be going around and taking the Weasley way out of reporting someone. We're in a society where doing what's right doesn't always get rewarded, she said. Patricia has lupus. Okay, yeah, fair point. But there's a caveat to that. We'll get to that. 2 other people in a house have autoimmune diseases. Okay. Right. So stay home. This is what I don't get, right? Even this whole lupus argument that people are trying to make. Okay, if you have lupus and you are literally in a high risk situation of catching this, stay home. Don't go out. Who cares if everybody else is outside partying it up? If you've got this lupus and you've got potential beer bug that's out there and you don't want to catch it, you stay home. Why are you still ratting on everybody else who doesn't have that same problem? Like, my neighbour, like I said, haven't seen her in 7 weeks. Don't know if she's alive or dead over there. Probably should check. But I don't want to check because she's high risk. She's elderly. I might have beer bug and not even know it. And I might end up giving it to her. We have to be extra careful because we don't have the strength to fight this, she says. I saw a lot of businesses that were non-essential that were open and had lines outside. How do you know? How do you know lines of people were lined up at businesses that were non-essential and open? Unless you went out yourself. Unless you are defying the same laws that you're reporting other people for. So let me get this straight. Even at the best case scenario, you decided to what? Go outside, find out what businesses were open, potentially run the risk of infecting yourself just so you can dibby-dubby on people that are still open. What? Does anybody think that makes sense? Hi, I have lupus. I might actually possibly catch this and it might actually possibly kill me. So I'm going to go outside where everybody is that might actually have it and dibby-dabby on people so that I can report them to the government because I think they should be closed. Okay, but you do have lupus, right? Yeah. And you potentially had a high risk of catching this disease, right? Yeah. And you could possibly die from this disease, right? Yeah. Right, so why aren't you staying home? Because they're breaking the law and leaving their house. But you're breaking the law and leaving your house yourself. Shut up, you're a misogynist, would be their response. Like, it really doesn't make much sense, does it? Tips flood in after the county asked for help. What Patricia did was exactly what St Louis County intended when it established 2 ways for people to submit tips to non-compliant businesses. County government announced the creation of an online forum and a dedicated email address for those tips of the last week in March. A little over a week, those channels received more than 900 tips from the public and released documents show among the complaints are employees and their family members asking for anonymity because they fear backlash from employers. Those I can understand. If you're an employer and you've been asked to turn up to employee and you've been asked to turn up to work by your employer and you don't want to do it because you run the risk of catching beer bug, I get that. I totally get that. But how many of those 900 do you think of that? Small minority? Out of the 900, what, 300 probably at most? Vast majority of people that are dibby-dabby minding their own business? But anyway. The online forums, some of them used as warned as their tips are submitted could become public records. The disclaimer for the submission had acknowledged before saying, yes, I have been advised. Okay, so they were warned. They are warned that this information could be released. Oh my God, the information's been released. Were you warned? Yeah. Well, what did you expect? No information not to be released, even though it said it could have been. Advised that this forum and any other communication may be considered an open record pursuant to the Sunshine Laws, Chapter 610 RSMO. St Louisan County may require to release this information as well as communications as matter upon law. Requests any member of the public, including the media. Patricia said she never expected it to end up on Facebook, posted by someone whose motives seemed to be revenge. Well, we actually found out who actually posted it, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So, social media backlash. The Facebook post headline says, there you go, the gallery of snitches, busybodies, and employees who ratted out their own neighbours and employers over the pandemic. A person whose Facebook profile name is Jared something, I'm not going to say his name, told the I-Team he posted the documents knowing that there might be consequences for the people named within. If they were worried about the retaliation, they should have read the fine print which stated the tips would be open public records subject to sunshine requests, and should have not submitted tips in that manner to begin with, wrote Tosh, which I agree with. I released the information in an attempt to discourage such behaviour in the future. The person that leaked the info declined a phone or video interview. He asked how he felt about the possibility that someone who reported a business might lose their job. He wrote, I call it poetic justice, instant karma, a dose of their own medicine. What goes around comes around, and now they're experiencing the same pain that they've themselves helped inflict on those who filed complaints against. That's exactly the attitude that Patricia was concerned about. Or Karens were concerned about. We're not only worried about beer bug, we're also worried about someone showing up at my door, showing up at my workplace, or getting me fired for doing what is right. Yeah. So, there's a lot of other stuff that, there's a little bit more. Just skimming through this to see if there's any... Yeah, no. But we ended up finding out how it all came out, who actually requested the release of the info. Ended up being it was a radio host who actually did it, a journalist himself. The I-Team investigation have found out hundreds of tipsters and the personal information on social media. What was his name? So we reached out to Alman to find out how the list ended up on his online. He ended up redirecting us to his radio show where he admits to releasing the info. So it was a talk show host and former ABC 30 anchor Jamie Alman who released the info. Now, like I say, they're worried about the tipsters getting retaliation, but what about this guy? Are you worried about him getting retaliation? Look, at the end of the day, as for this, like I say, look, to be honest, stitches are bitches and bitches get stitches, right? I really don't have much sympathy for the people. The only people that I really care about in this situation, or I feel any sort of compassion for in this situation, are the people that are actually going to lose their job because their employer is making them turn up to work. That to me is generally the only ones I care about. And that would be the vast minority of cases in this. The vast majority of them would be people who are just busybodies who wanted to rat out someone because someone was opening their businesses and making money and they're jealous. That's all it is. It's jealousy, right? And like I said, they don't mention it here, but roughly around 60% of these people were Democratic. 30% were actually Republican. So, like I say, look, obviously you could probably take the demographics of the area into account. What is St. Louisiana? Is it mostly Democrat? Voting block, maybe. Voting records. Let's just look up St. Louisiana. This is the problem with Google searches these days. Can't see it right. I'm guessing it's going to be predominantly Democrat, I presume. Alright, here's Missouri for 2016 election. Alright. Okay, well, overwhelming Republican. Okay, so I was wrong about that. So, Missouri, St. Louis went to the Democrats. But which is St. Louis. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the very heavy Democratic city has obviously had A, a tip line, and B, a lot of people reporting into it. So that makes sense, I suppose. So St. Louis, Kansas City. All right, so yeah. St. Louis, here we go. Alright, so Democrat, Republican. So Democrats won 286,000. Republicans won 202. Okay, so there's really not a lot in it, to be honest. It's pretty neck and neck. Like, I know the percentages seem bigger, but just looking at the votes, 202 to 286, there's roughly 514. So you're looking at roughly 250 is around the halfway mark. Roughly. So there was a lot of people that didn't vote. There was 25,000 that were various other candidates. So, like out of half, Hillary only got 55%. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, obviously, I find this very interesting. I find, obviously, the demographics of people who called in. To be honest, I find that very interesting in itself. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I don't have any real compassion for these people that that have gone through and reported people to this tip line. You tried to be a weasel and you tried to rat people out, and you got the information leaks. Grow a spine. But I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If this video has been helpful, please smack that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, we'll see you in the next demand-sized video from YouTube. Have a great night. Enjoy.